Hello, Eesha. How are you?
Hi, I'm good. Thanks for having me again.
Yeah, it's great to have you come back on. I was actually looking, this is going to be the 60th podcast.
Oh, no way.
Yeah. And can you remember what
50
number?
And 50? Yeah,
so we've got a bit of a theme, a pattern developing.
I'll come back for the 70th and the 80th.
Please do. Lucky number 100 as well.
Yeah.
If or when that occurs.
Oh, it will.
We'll see. It was quite an interesting podcast, the last one that we did together.
It was a lot of fun.
If anyone is interested, go check out episode 50 because things got a bit wacky towards the end, but in the best possible way. So, it was interesting for me to watch that again and also, feel like I was a part of it again. How did it feel like for you?
Yeah, I had to go back and listen to it again as well because just for those who haven't seen it, there was some live channeling on there. And because I don't always remember everything that comes through. So I had to go back and listen to it. And then that was my way of getting the information again. Mm-hmm. I think because the transmission happens on a different level. Right. Like it's an energetic transmission that occurs, and the mind, when I channel, the mind goes completely out of the way. So I don't always remember what's been said. And then in order for the mind to actually catch on and, catch up with the process, I have to go back and listen to it so that I can then comprehend it myself.
Right.
So I did go and listen to it, and it was very interesting just to go back and see what actually came through. And and then also hearing your observations, because remember how someone asked what you observed, and you were saying that and the whole face changed and all that. I was like, wow, I've never had that feedback before, so that was interesting for me as well.
Well, your whole body changed.
Right.
It was like I'm sort of just remembering it sitting here now, but like your whole opacity changed. Like it was like you were becoming see-through or something.
Yeah, right.
It's like this energetic state where it was just more light than normal. You weren't as dense. Would probably be.
But they didn't show up on the recording, did it?
No.
Because on the recording it just looked normal. Yeah. But then you obviously noticed something because you were here. Yeah,
definitely. And I reckon there's definitely part of it because, like, looking at it from a scientific point of view, for me, it was like, I don't know, it was very mesmerising. Definitely was. And I couldn't take my eyes off of you, and what was going on.
What can I say?
So, I know you get that all the time, Eesha, I'm sure.
Right.
But I had to, my focus was so intensely and intently directed at you that it was almost like a hallucination almost would be the word. Similar sort of thing. It was a similar sort of feeling. So, yeah.
I think it's probably, I've been in situations where I've been listening to somebody else channel and I can definitely understand that sense of being totally mesmerized by it. And I think, my best guess would be that it's just because it's such a familiar energy that you go, oh my God, this is what I've been searching for, because it's as close to that home frequency as you can possibly get,
Yeah.
So, that would be my guess as to why you might be feeling that way.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And with that, very much in the present as well. And I think that's an important aspect of channeling, I guess. Not that I know really anything about it, but just being very much in the present. And also for those people who are surrounded by someone who perhaps is channeling, is to make sure you're in the present as well. So you can make sure not to miss anything, I guess, and really tune in with that vibration that's going on during it.
I don't think you can really miss anything. I think the energy's there regardless. Like if somebody's channeling and they're in that state, then the energy's coming through them. And I think anyone who's watching would have received that transmission.
Yeah.
But I think it's just your level of awareness around it. And it's very easy. Like I know I do this when I sit in groups and somebody else is channeling, that I try and comprehend everything with the mind, and I keep being told that it's not about that. You have to just have that energetic transmission, and then it comes up into your conscious awareness a little bit later on.
Sure.
Which, that's something I struggle with, unless I'm the one channeling, I sit there trying to analyze everything. So, but I think having presence definitely helps, because then if you're just really aware, then you might have an experience on a different level. You might notice the subtle energies, or you might notice something that you might not have noticed if you're just trying to listen to the words themselves.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, it definitely makes sense. Yeah. There's like a... like there's that movie, The Castle. It's a famous Australian movie.
I know that one. Yeah, we studied that in school.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
What a great movie to study.
Yeah.
But, you know, he's like, there's that famous scene where he's talking about how it's like the vibe of the thing. So the vibe, it's, you know, he's talking about like, why shouldn't something go ahead in this court case? And I think it's very, very similar to the way we live our life. Like what vibe do we feel? It's such a loaded word, vibe. When you say, there's definitely parts of me whenever I hear the word like, or even say it myself, like the words energy or vibration or frequency, part of me just goes like that.
Oh, really? How interesting.
Yeah, and I'm sure it's just totally got to do with me, but it's also got to do, I think, with my judgments of those words based on how they've been misused for like decades and decades. So I either need to just reconcile that or start using another word for a vibe. I don't know.
Fair enough. I think vibe is different to energy, frequency, and vibration. I think.
Sure.
Because vibe is like, well, maybe it's the same thing. Maybe it's that holistic. You know, and again, holistic is another one of those words that gets thrown around left, right, and centre. But I think the vibe is, you know, like that intuitive kind of feeling. It probably is based on your perception of whatever frequencies you're picking up on. But I think there's a bit of a distinction between that.
Yeah.
But I love using the words energy, frequency, and vibration. That's the whole philosophy behind everything I do.
Right. Well, that's all we are. That's all. Anything that we can see in this whole fucking world that we're in. That's it. It's just nothing but energy, sound, vibration, frequency, harmonics, light.
Yeah. I mean, we can take it from a scientific point of view. You know, it goes back down to E = MC squared, where everything that we see in our physical world is somehow related to energy. And energy is vibration. Vibration has a frequency. And so there is definitely that link between everything we see around us and just energy. So... But yeah, vibe is an interesting one.
Sure.
I think I put a bit of an intuitive slight onto that one. Where vibe is like you walk into a room and you feel the vibe, you know?
Yeah.
Whereas energy for me is something that's probably a little bit more tangible.
Sure.
And that's because I come from quite a scientific background. So for me, I think energy, and I think all my knowledge of physics and engineering and you know all that stuff comes into it. So yeah.
Do you feel like your background in the mathematics side of things has been a benefit for you as well over the last couple of years, moving more into the esoteric?
I ask myself this quite a lot. Sometimes I think, my God, why did I study engineering? Because like what good has that got me? But at the same time,
I'm sure it's done a lot of good.
It has. It really has. And I mean, I only got into teaching through engineering.
Oh, did you? Okay.
Yeah, my first teaching job was actually teaching. I lectured at UWA. So then,
really?
chuck that on my I taught
what
first
did you
and
lecture?
Second year engineering units.
Oh, did you really?
Yeah,
Okay.
I did. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And then I started working with children after that.
Yep.
So
nice.
it has influenced me in many ways. And in fact, my lecturer, there's a professor at UWA, she teaches engineering and social justice, and out of all the units I did, that was my favourite. It was an elective, and I had to go to the department and get all this special approval and everything from the head of school just so I could do that one unit.
All right.
I was really into that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Did that one unit and completely changed my life.
Right.
And because I met that professor, she then gave me the teaching job. I started doing the teaching and the lecturing at UWA, and it just took me on this whole other pathway, I think. And I began to realise that life is not about what you initially sign up for. Because I thought I was going to go to uni, become an engineer, I'd sit at the desk, I'd have, you know, a job, and that would be it.
Yeah.
And then that one unit made me realise that even within engineering, there was so much scope.
Sure.
That wasn't what I was doing. And 2 years after doing that unit, I actually got a job working with a company where we were working with remote Aboriginal communities. And because I'd done units like engineering and social justice, they didn't even look at my transcript. They just looked at my resume. They looked at the fact that I had volunteered with Engineers Without Borders, again, all because of this one unit that I'd done that really influenced me. And it showed me that, you know, women, first of all, can be really powerful in engineering, and secondly, that engineering isn't just pulling numbers out. It can really have a very positive impact on people if you use it in that way.
Definitely.
And so I've seen friends of mine go off and do documentaries about, like one of my friends is a humanitarian engineer.
Right.
And she went off and did all this research and made a whole documentary film about it. And it
Brilliant.
shows people that, I'll put a link up actually. It's a really good documentary. She's a good friend of mine.
Cool.
Yeah. And basically it just shows people that a lot of these sciences and things like that can actually have a very positive social impact on society as well. Because I think a lot of people like to separate the two. You know, you're either like fully activist, you're doing all this great work with society, or you're doing some boring technical job.
Sure.
And you don't realize how much there's actually that intermingling that happens. And so I think engineering has helped me. I think it's given me a lot of that passion to do the work that I'm doing, and also the means to do it. I mean, I would not have the means to be doing half of what I'm doing if I hadn't been educated, hadn't gotten those jobs, hadn't, you know. I mean, we say that we like to manifest things, but let's be a bit realistic. Like, you know, I had to have the money to do it. I had to have the contacts. I had to have, you know, even just the networking has been so beneficial for me to put on my resume that I know, like, the head of school and things like that at UWA has been really helpful. Yeah, really helpful. So, I think it's definitely played a very big part in getting me to where I am. And even though I'm not actively in the role of engineering, all this stuff about energy, even channeling and everything, like earth magnetic fields, all of that stuff, I feel like I have a very solid understanding of it because of that background.
Yeah,
like
sure.
there are channelers out there, even, you know, like Honey, how they do the planetary work. I think you can get that, you know, you can get that channeled knowledge of how the field system works and the grid systems on the earth and all of that. Whereas I feel like I've got an extra realm of knowledge because I understand how the physical electromagnetic fields on the earth work, how, you know, magnets work in relation to, you know, just vector fields and all that kind of stuff. I actually understand all of that, and I've studied all of that.
Yep.
So even with sacred geometry, I understand how sacred geometry works in terms of energy, because you could take a bit of copper, for example. I don't know if you've heard of the Rodin coil.
Yes. Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
So he uses vortex mathematics, and I've gone and looked at all this stuff, and I actually understand it because of this engineering that I've done.
Right.
So it's not completely redundant, even though sometimes I say to myself, God, what was I even doing?
Sure.
But I think it's really played a very big part in helping me get a lot of that foundational knowledge.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I think, I mean, any experience we have in our life, no matter what it is, whether it's vocational or educational, it really, we can use anything in our background and our past to really help us in the present moment, no matter what it is we're doing. And I really feel like, because, tertiary education especially is an interesting one. And, I mean, you and I have both been at UWA, and, I mean, it's regarded as a good university. It's gone through some perils at the moment. I don't know if anyone's seen the headlines for it.
Yeah.
A lot of that's based on... I mean, at the moment, see, that's a problem with the schooling system and tertiary education, especially somewhere like UWA, which fancies itself, let's say that way. UWA does fancy itself. Great teachers, great lecturers, and I've always found that fantastic. But the place is run like a business, very much so, and and they don't give a rat's ass about the students, it seems, or the professors or researchers there as well. But there's an enormous amount of benefit to studying there. Like there's an enormous amount of benefit to understanding the world from a rational point of view that I think can sometimes be missed out for more people who follow more of the esoteric path. And like something that's really come up for me lately is, I mean, since I've been on this journey is another word. Since I've been on this journey, like the understanding of the human body has become much more important to me. Like I've always been interested in human biology. Like I studied human biology in high school, and I'm always interested in movement and how the body works. But I've never been more interested than right now. Like I'm just like feel like I'm a fucking sponge for like how the human system operates, the digestive system, the respiratory system, our nervous system. I'm just really loving it. But I can't understand all that from just an esoteric point of view only. Like it's important to get the science behind it as well, you know. And there can be a real argument against science, how it's very reductionist and getting down to the bare bones of things, but doesn't look at the space in between. But that's fine. Like we need that as well. We need that real elemental reductionist science part to fully understand this world we're in, and then bring in the esoteric as well, and then find that melding between the two. I really feel like that's where it's at. Like it's important to have an understanding of our physical world from a scientific, rational point of view, but it's also important to have an understanding of the esoteric, again, the space in between, to be able to make any sense of it all. Because I don't feel like we can truly make sense of the science, and we can't truly make sense of the esoteric. It's somewhere in between that the answers possibly
yeah.
lie.
I think making sense. This whole idea of making sense. I think I'm giving up on, to be honest.
Oh, I'm not. Are you sure? I'm not. That's cool though too.
I think.
I know what you mean though. Like, yeah, you don't want to like drive yourself crazy.
Exactly.
Like, I just finished reading Zen and Art of Motorcycle Maintenance. Have you ever heard of that book?
No.
It's this famous philosophy book written in 1972 by a guy called what's his first name? Something Persig anyway. But it's basically like a combination of stories about him and his son riding a motorbike through America. But he overlays it with his experiences as a professor in philosophy and how he had a nervous breakdown trying to understand the world and everything around him. He interweaves it. But he's very much like this battle of like trying to make sense of the world and letting everything go. And it's like it's a tough one.
I don't know if those two go hand in hand.
They don't.
If you're trying to make sense at the same time as trying to let go,
yeah,
I think
that's the problem. That's the conundrum right there.
I really think you would go crazy. I think
definitely.
Yeah, I think you'd have a very hard time with that.
Yeah.
I think I'm leaning more towards just letting everything kind of unfold now.
Sure.
Because I think the mind is very limiting. I think the more I try and think of things and try and make sense of everything, the more I just go, oh my God, I'm either like a million years behind the rest of the crowd because there's so much that I don't know, or I can't understand it anyway, and then I just get frustrated.
Sure.
So I think a lot more knowing comes with just not trying to understand. Does that make sense?
Totally makes sense.
Because it's just that whole idea of, and I think this is what I've come through, through the channeling, is getting into the space, because in the space between like what's happening and what you're trying to understand. I mean, you're only ever really going to try and understand something if there's a difference between what you're perceiving and what you think something should be like, and so you're trying to fill in the gap, right? Or you see a new piece of information and it's not in your current reality, so you're trying to bring a bit of it back to you. So I think if you just accept what is happening right now, you can still get new information, but I think driving yourself nuts trying to understand everything is probably not going to help.
Sure.
I think if anything, you're going to end up so far away from the truth, because the truth isn't in all those books and that knowledge. I think the truth is here and now. And so if you get into the space that's the present moment right now, then every piece of information is available. And I think channeling is definitely a very good proof of that, because, I mean, you think about the kind of things that people pull through when they channel, and they wouldn't know that unless they were accessing the infinite all in that present moment.
Sure.
And so then it doesn't matter what they've read in what books or what TV shows or anything like that. It just means that in the present moment, whatever is necessary is able to be brought forward. And then there's no need to be filling up with information because it's all there all the time. And so if you need it, you just assume that it's going to be there.
Sure. Do you feel it's important that there are some people, like as a human species of 7 billion people, let's say, like, do you feel it's important that we have a wide range of people in the way they see the world and the way they interact and learn? And there's
I don't
definitely...
know if I would say that it's important. I think it's certainly very useful to have that, because if you imagine it from the point of view of, let's just go back to say, okay, everyone is consciousness, and this is consciousness having an experience and all its multifacets, right? So it would be a bit redundant, I think, if every single person was having the same experience. And so to get the collective whole of every experience that you can possibly have, then you need a lot of different people, a lot of different personalities, a lot of different stories, and then together, that's how consciousness would have the fullest experience of itself.
Sure. Yeah, it makes sense, definitely. When you were something you spoke about a bit before sort of reminded me of something that Honey said, actually, where, like, when we use our mind and it's great for focusing and really setting an intention on something and going after a goal. But what can happen is a lot of the other stuff that surrounds you gets missed, and perhaps there's something that was there and available to you in potentiality that you missed out on because you got so focused on only one thing. And so that's the danger of living just with a lot of mind and thinking too much, I guess. Whereas
it comes down to just perspective. I mean, it's just whether you're looking at a tiny part of a picture or whether you're just getting a wide angle.
Sure. Yeah, definitely. Now, Eesha, you also have, I don't know if we spoke about it in the first podcast, but about your Siddhi Space?
Siddhi Space. No, I don't think
Place?
it came up, to be honest. I think we got a bit carried away with other bits and pieces.
Sure. As tends to happen on this podcast. It goes off on many tangents. But can I ask you a bit about that? And
Yeah. I'd love to talk about that. Yeah, that's been my little baby for the last 6 months.
It's like your passion.
Oh, totally.
Yeah, I think it's great. I had... so we just spoke about it before, but I had Ava on as well on the last podcast, and she's doing some work down in Fremantle there, and what you're doing is very similar as well. So can you tell us a little bit about it, Eesha, perhaps both like how you got started with it, why you decided to start doing it, and what you're actually doing as well?
Yeah, sure. It's a pretty interesting story, actually.
Sure.
So last August, I think it was, I was in a meditation group, and I got this image of this sacred geometry in my head, and I was like, I don't know, I just knew that I had to draw it, so I just recorded it, and I got very precise instructions, like on dimensions, on the number of little detailing in it, everything. It was just this whole colors, everything. So I wrote it all down, and then a few days later I had another experience where I got another picture, and then over the next 2 weeks I had a series of 10 codes. Now I just kind of tuned in and was like, what is this about? And the first thing that popped into my head was DNA. And I was like, what's that all about? I'd sort of heard about, the 12-strand DNA and about Lemurian ancient codings and things like that. I didn't know too much about it, but I guess I kind of just knew that that's what it was. So I drew all the pictures and, did them up on the computer and everything. And something just said to me, like, you have to give these to people. And I didn't know how I was going to do that. I didn't even know what that would look like. I'd never facilitated anything like that in my life. I hadn't even run a meditation class, nothing. So yeah, it's just funny how life kind of steps up. I mean, when you're ready for something, all I said was, okay, I'm going to do it. I think it was almost this kind of, here's the mission. Okay, I'm going to accept it. And then everything fell into place. Within 3 weeks, I had the space and I'd done my first ceremony. And I had 7 people show up. I had all the cards printed. Everything was ready to go. I didn't know how I was going to do it, but when I got there, everything just kind of happened. I'm guessing it was like half channeled, like it was it just happened.
Get yourself out of the way.
Yeah, and I just did it. I sat there, I facilitated the thing, and I mean, I can't even really give myself the credit for it. I think it was just, I'm just the instrument for it, I think it's time for these codes to be released, and so I just allowed myself to be available for that to occur. And I think I was really just coming from a place of, look, I just want to be in service to humanity and to the planet. What is the best way that I can do that? And so this is how this all happened. I didn't know back then that I'd be running this centre or anything, and it had been a long-term goal of mine at some point, like 10 years down the track or something, to have a holistic healing centre. So when it happened all within 3 weeks, I was like, oh my God, like, what is this, And there were actually, at the time, there were other people in Perth who were doing similar projects and things like that. But mine just completely went off on its own tangent. Because initially I was collaborating with others to do like a healing centre, and then, it just didn't work. I think it was just different energies. And then, it's just step by step evolved into what it is now. And now it's not even a healing centre. I used to tell people it was a holistic healing centre, but something about it never really felt quite right. And it's funny because I never got my logo done. I never got my cards done. Like, nothing happened. I tried to get it done so many times, and for whatever reason, it just fell through. And now, finally, things are moving because the vision of the space has changed completely. And I realised that this whole time, for probably the first 4 months, I was trying to run a healing centre when I didn't believe in healing. So what was I doing, So where it's at now is the whole philosophy behind the space is I want people to have a space, like a physical space, where they can get together with like-minded beings and they can actually experience being in the vibrations of joy, love and bliss. Because every single person that is spending an additional moment in that vibration is creating more of that for the planet. So it has nothing to do with fixing people. It has nothing to do with healing people. It has nothing to do with telling people that there's something wrong with them and they must come to me in order to change that. This is just a space where people can come who are, those who are exploring these new energies, and they can be in that. And
sure.
then, it does provide support and things like that, because I know how challenging it can be when you finally start waking up to the world and you go, oh my God, is there anyone around that I can talk to about this stuff?
Yeah.
And so that's the space where people can do that.
Definitely.
And so I still have workshops, like I still do the raw food cooking and the essential oils, and I do the meditation classes, the sacred geometry. And the activations have really taken off. I mean, that's the one that people just come to. Without any advertising whatsoever, my rooms get filled.
What are the activations?
That's the sacred geometry, the codes that I first got.
Right, cool.
Yeah, so with those codes, there's the 10 codes, like I was saying, and I release them in pairs. So it's just to do with, I guess that's just how I was told to do it. It's done in a very specific way. They're done in pairs, and they have to be done in a particular order.
Right.
And so in each ceremony, we'll do 2 of the codes. And then you have to do, they sort of build on each other. So you have to do part 1, then you have to do part 2 until you've done all 10 of them. I've only released the first 4. The others won't be coming out for probably another few months.
Okay.
But yeah, they seem to just facilitate themselves, really. I mean,
cool.
People just come.
Yep.
Yeah. So it's obviously needed,
Sure.
And then the other workshops, it's become a space where I just do things for fun.
Yeah.
So because I have the physical space to do it, it's a case of what do I feel like bringing and sharing with people, and then I'll set up the event and the people will come. So that's how it turned into raw food, then it turned into something else. I'm going to do chocolate making soon. I'm going to do like lip balms and cosmetics soon. Like, it's just whatever I want,
awesome.
really.
Yeah.
But that's me. I mean, that space is me. So whatever I'm excited about, that's what I'm going to do. In fact, my most latest exciting project, I've got myself a music of the plants device. And I don't know if you've heard,
I've heard of it.
Dumb and Her people, they toured around. Now, I didn't even know about this, but I went to Byron Bay a few weeks ago, and I went to the Crystal Castle, and they had a device there, and I saw the plants singing, and I just said, I have to do this. I have to bring this to Perth.
Okay.
Little did I know that next week, those people were actually touring to Perth. And so they've done a few, workshops and things in the last couple of weeks, but I'm getting this device, and I want to get a group of people together where we actually go through the process of training the plants and building those sacred bonds with the plant kingdoms. So I'm really excited to see how that goes, because I haven't done anything like it before.
Have you seen it in use yet? Have you seen it in use? Did you see it in use in
I've
Byron
seen
Bay?
it. I've seen it live. I've seen this thing. I've seen this device being hooked up to the plants, and I've seen the plants singing, and it just totally blew me away. I just could not believe what I was seeing. It was it was phenomenal. I mean, when they said music of the plants, I thought, oh geez, and this is my engineering mind that comes in, they're just measuring pulses, and like I could do that. I could just get the pulse measuring, hook it up to a MIDI, and it would be fine. But there's so much more to it. You see the way that these plants interact and they react to things, and I've heard all these stories about, for example, someone was telling me that they got this machine and they hooked up to a strawberry plant, and they picked a strawberry and it stopped singing, and then they said thank you, and then it started singing again. I'm just like, it's completely blown me away. So I'm really looking forward to getting a small group of people in Perth and actually testing it for ourselves and seeing how we can work with these plants. And so I play the flute, so I want to get my flute out, play the music to the plants, because I've also heard that when you play music to them, sometimes they'll echo the riffs back to you.
Oh, really? Okay.
So it's just, really exploring the sentience of plants and seeing how we can build harmonious relationships with our plant kingdom. Honestly, it was one of the most incredible things I've ever seen.
Okay.
I knew I had to bring it to Perth.
There's definitely an intelligence to plants.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And it's something that I'd sort of thought of theoretically up until it was only just recently where I was quite high. I had a fair bit to smoke, but I was around the side here, and I've got one of those pawpaw trees, the tropical tree, big leaves, that amazing orange fruit. And it was quite a warm day, and I was really looking at the leaves and how they'd wilted in the sun. It's just its way of conserving energy. It was by taking the moisture out of its leaves and putting it into its trunk. And I'd understood all that from a scientific point of view for a long, long time. But for the first time I was looking at it, I was like, fuck, well, if that plant's doing that, there's a form of intelligence that goes behind that. There's and with that intelligence is a form of consciousness as well, that it takes to be able to operate that way and do what it does. At 35 years age, I've finally got this real understanding of the plants and the trees and how I mean, yeah, I mean, it's obviously been a very important part of my life for the last couple of years, especially like communing with different plants and really understanding them. And when I say communing, I literally mean having conversations with these things. But to see the intelligence in a normal, well, I was high, but like to see it in a normal state was like, you know, not in a psychedelic state, was, yeah, really a real opener for me. So some of you said that also, what I think what's fantastic about what you're doing, it's like, you're just like that movie Field of Dreams. If you remember that classic 90s movie with Kevin Costner?
No, I haven't seen it.
Oh, Eesha, it's like one of the best. Yes,
Okay.
you have to. He basically is like a corn farmer in like somewhere in America in the Midwest, and he builds his baseball field in the middle of because he got this message that he should, and then all these like old baseball players from the past and his dad as well come back as spirits to play. Yeah,
What?
it's an amazing movie. It was like, it was a massive blockbuster hit. It was one of Kevin Costner's like biggest movies, and it's probably his last decent movie before he went downhill. But you know, like, so basically the main theme of the movie, and it's this famous bit where like he hears this whisper, and it just goes, "If you build it, they will come." And so he builds his baseball, and then just like, because he's losing money as well, the farm's losing money, and all these people from everywhere just come and flock and pay all this money to watch this baseball game between all these legendary players who are actually dead, but they play as ghosts. Yeah, it's an amazing movie. Anyone I'm sure watching this has seen it, you agree, you can know what I'm talking about. If you haven't seen it, go out and watch it.
Yeah,
Eesha, put it on your watch list.
Okay, yeah, I will. Probably
It's
watch
fantastic.
it today.
Yeah, it's really good. But that's really what you're doing, and that's what people like Ava is doing, and all these people who are opening up these different centers, and they're doing it from a real heart space. They're doing it from a real altruistic point of view. I'm sure you're doing a lot for yourself as well. It's like aiding your own education and understanding of yourself and the world. But you're putting it out there, and people are just finding it, and which is brilliant.
Well, I think the biggest shift for me as well recently has been I'm not doing it for anyone else anymore.
Mm.
I do everything I do in that space because it is something that I'm passionate about.
Sure.
And then if I make that available to share with other people, then those who are on the same page will come.
Yeah, definitely.
It's not about churning out numbers or anything like that. I mean, there are some people who come and some people who don't. And it's not about that, you know. And look, every now and then there'll be a workshop where only like one or two people come.
Yep.
And then you do it anyway because you do it out of the passion for doing it. It's
definitely
not about the money making. And yes, the money is useful. I mean, we live in 3D reality, like still got to have the money, still have to have certain things to make it, to facilitate the process. But I really just want the energy flowing. For me, it's just about getting the energy flowing through the space so that those who would like to become a part of this and a part of creating this new paradigm, they have a space to do it in.
Yeah, definitely, for sure. I really feel that's the best way to approach it, and perhaps with everything in life. And definitely this podcast is the same as well. I do it fundamentally for myself because I'm very passionate about it. I'm very fortunate to have like a really, really cool group of people.
Yeah, you must have some really awesome conversations.
Oh, fuck. Well, that's the whole reason I started doing the podcast, is because I was having all these awesome conversations anyway. And then I was a huge fan of podcasts already, you know, for a couple of years. I was like, I should just start recording this and put it out on the web. And like, if anyone watches it, all well and good. But if no one does, then that's okay too, because for an hour or an hour and a half, I'll get to have a kick-ass conversation with someone and learn a lot.
Yeah. And
there's most definitely those out there who put a lot of time and effort into like other podcasters, and you know, are really like a dog on a bone, you know, getting sponsors together and making a living out of it. But I feel like, I don't know, if I was to do that, there'd be something that would get lost in what I'm trying to do. So
it's hard to stay authentic, isn't it? I mean,
it can be, yeah.
Only in the sense of like, okay, let's just talk about spirituality versus business for a while here. This whole concept of doing what you love and then making money to do it. So if you were to take this podcast and do it in such a way that you were making an income off it, I think it would be very challenging to keep the authenticity and the rawness of what it actually is and not have the focus shift to the making money part of it.
Sure. Yeah,
it's
definitely.
It's a very different energy.
Very different. And I've wondered for 3 years now that I've been doing this, how would it feel if I perhaps adopted a sponsor or did something? But I really feel like if I was to do that, I don't think it would be monetary based. Like, for example, I'm a massive fan of Beyond Rest, the float tank place down in East Perth. And I'm been speaking to both of the brothers about getting him on the podcast. But I'd love to do something.
Nick and Ben are great. Hey?
Nick and Ben are fucking awesome.
Yeah.
I was speaking to Nick, he's over in Melbourne helping set up the new one over there, and Ben's busy with the other one. So hopefully we can try and do it before I leave. But, like a sponsorship with them, for example, would be fantastic. But what I'd love to do is like just have something where I can speak about them, but like instead of getting money back, perhaps like a free float session or something like that. They do that
because I've actually done meditation classes for them and I get free floats in exchange.
Oh, nice. Cool.
Yeah, so they're very good at that exchange thing.
Sure. Yeah. So perhaps that's something I'd like to do one day and do that in other ways as well. So my needs a lot of my needs can be met by this podcast, but it's not necessarily monetary. It's in value of things that I need. Like, well, I don't need to do float tanks, but they are fucking phenomenal.
Really good, I will say.
Let's just say Beyond Rest, anyone watching this, if you haven't checked it out, if you've never done a sensory deprivation is another word for them, float tank.
Around.
Yeah, there's a few of them around, and it's just amazing to be able to do for an hour, or you can do 2 hours, or just to be there.
Have you done it before?
Yeah, I've done a few times.
What was your experience?
I mean, each one's been different, but yeah, you definitely get in there quite deep. Well, you can get in there quite deeper than a normal meditation.
Oh yeah,
that's what I found. Yeah. Well, last time I did it, I tried it with, actually was speaking about it before this, but with edible cannabis as well. So I ate some weed and then
that's
went
ballsy.
in. Tell me about it. There's another guy I know who's done it before, and I only sort of had like my half dose, so because I wanted to be functional enough to still know what I'm doing. But there's another guy I know, he says he does it and he'll eat so much that he actually like freaks himself out and he'll be like, oh fuck, did I just eat too much? Oh shit. And then he'll jump in the tank and have his experience and whatever comes up. So it definitely adds to it. It's very much again, I spoke to you about it before, it's more of a psychoactive sort of chemical compound that gets processed when you eat marijuana as opposed to smoking it. So it like lends itself brilliantly to float tanks and meditation, especially because it's very much of a body experience as well, very relaxing, and your body really just dissolves. So if you're doing that for an hour in a float tank, it's perfect, really. So yeah,
can't say I've ever tried that version of it. I just do my regular float.
Which is more than enough anyway, isn't it? Yeah.
Oh yeah, I've had amazing experiences. The first time I got in that float tank, I remember just feeling like my body was just like leaving, like I was just leaving my body completely, and then I was out in space somewhere, and then I remember shooting back to this space of I'm trying to explain it, like there was nothing there, like complete the void space, right? And then I remember watching these electrons go past. And this is how I first got like a solid understanding of how sacred geometry works, because I watched these beams of light intersecting with each other, and then the way in which they intersected and the different angles and the different vectors that they created different types of molecules. I was like, that is so fascinating.
Yeah, cool.
Because it was all based on this fundamental light-like energy. I think it was light.
Yeah.
It appeared like little gold streams of electrons, basically.
Okay. Cool.
And then just the way that they interacted with each other, that's how the different types of atoms were created. And it was like the geometrical representations that would dictate the functionality of that particular atom or molecule.
Right, okay.
So that was a really good float.
Yeah, for sure.
I got a really
like
solid understanding of creation in a way.
Okay. Yeah, right, nice. Yeah, I mean, they're brilliant on lots of different levels, physically as well. You're sitting in all this Epsom salt, which is
my shoulders
magnesium.
And stuff
and it really just sinks in like osmosis through the skin, and it's fantastic for hydrating the body, for helping with muscle. Like magnesium is amazing for muscles. So to have that in there, there's a wealth of benefit. I'd love to have one day to have my own float tank. would be amazing just to have it.
I've thought about having one at Siddhi Space, and I thought,
you can get them set up as just like those temporary ones as well. Have you ever seen those? They're more like a bar.
I think though, if I were to do it at Siddhi Space, I think I'd have to worry about regulations and things, because when you're offering it in a public kind of venue, there's a lot more paperwork than if you just had it in your house.
Because it involves water as well, which can always be,
water,
and people using the same.
Yes, you
water.
have to test the chlorine levels, and the salt levels, and you have to get the UV filters, and it's a bit more complicated than just having it.
Putting some water with some Epsom salt, exactly, in like a blow-up bath or something like that. Yeah, there's definitely more to it. So let's go back to Siddhi Space. So you had all this. Okay, cool. This is all happening within about 3 weeks. It's like, okay, this is all happening. How's that evolved since when you first opened to now? You said that at the beginning you thought it would be like more of a healing, holistic sort of centre, and then now, but you've moved past that. I guess, is that the right way, or just see things differently now with it?
Yeah, I very much see things differently. I think there are a lot of places in Perth that cater to the needs of those who want to have healing. I just think that Siddhi Space is not one of those places. I think Siddhi Space is really a place where people come to be in joy. So it's not about from a place of, oh, I need fixing and so I'm going to go to this place. It's a more of a, I can go to that space and feel the wholeness that I already am.
Sure. Yeah.
So I think it's really putting into practice this paradigm of already being healed.
Right.
And just actually in a recent channeling that I did last week, because I do a weekly channeling group with a few friends, so we get together on Wednesday nights and then I'll channel. And just last week it came up that this whole idea of healing being something that is not fixing anyone else, but holding the space for their selves to remember their wholeness.
Sure.
And we actually did this exercise where there were, I think, about 5 of us, and there was one person there who had just like a really sore back. And so before we started the session, one of the other ladies was saying, look, maybe we can do something, maybe we can, help her out, do a healing or something. And then so in the channeling, we sort of went with that intention. And what came out was, we are not going to try and fix this person. We are going to imagine that this person is already in their perfection, in their childlike innocence, and every cell in their body is just filled with pure light and is remembering its soul self and its source energy that it contains. And it actually worked, because she went home that night saying that she felt amazing, and the next day that like a lot of the pain had gone. So I was like, okay, there's something behind this,
Yeah, even if it's... Yeah, definitely. It could definitely be an energetic thing, or it could even be a placebo thing as well. Like, I definitely believe that too. Like, you've had a period of time where, I don't know how long you guys were together for, like an hour or whatever it might have been.
Something like that.
And like psychologically, mentally, she's thinking, well, okay, this is what I'm doing at the moment, and this is what it's about, and this is what it's for. And the brain is such an incredible thing. I'm sure most probably her pain is resultant of something that's going on with her head. So whether it's something that is lining up energetically, or if it's just a placebo, or if it's both, or it doesn't even really matter, she's getting an experience out of it because she's surrounded by like-minded people who have got a common goal. It's like that, a metronome, they use it in music. Have you ever seen that? And it works. Like, you set up like 8 metronomes, and you all start them off at different intervals, but it might take a minute or 2 minutes, but they'll all start lining up and hitting at the same, or they'll follow the same resonance. Yeah. Have you not seen that? It's extraordinary.
No.
Yeah.
No, I haven't.
I did it when I was in Liechtenstein a couple of years ago. I did a podcast with a guy. He works with that Dr. Emoto.
Amazing guy. Does the work with the water.
Yeah, he does the lab
the
work.
Hidden messages and water and stuff.
And based out of the part of Liechtenstein. Fascinating guy. He actually came up with his instrument. He hooked me up to it actually, where it. I'll go back to the metronome thing in a minute, but he hooks it up to you, and he measures the heart rate, but it measures the the parts in between the heart rate as well, and turns it into music. So you can basically like hear your soul. It's basically your soul. You can hear its music, and you can put different tracks to it, or different styles of music to it, and brilliant. He has lights set up as well. Like, it's fucking phenomenal what he does. But he did it there as well. Did the metronome thing. That was the first time I've seen it, and then since I've seen a couple of YouTube things with it as well. Like,
I'll have to check that out.
Yeah,
would
it's
it
fascinating.
work with like an electric metronome, or like, are you talking the old school?
It's like the old school analog one.
I wonder how that works. That's fascinating.
Well, it's I feel like it's the same, with women, for example. We all know that one, when women get together, they'll share the same moon cycle. Like, they all get brought into the same harmonics. I think when you've got like a collection of a species, or like there's a harmony that forms, whether it might take 1 minute or it might take 1 month, where there's a flow that operates and continues, and it's a space for healing as well. So I feel like perhaps for this person with the sore back, you had like a group of you, and you're all able to like tune into the same harmony, which was of no pain in that part of the body, and you're all able to tap into that. That's just my thing about it. But how do you feel about it?
I think it works. I find it so fascinating how people would say, oh, but it's just placebo. Like, I'm sure you've heard the debates around like homeopathic medicines and stuff like that. And
I should say I make no claims to that it's placebo or that it's anything. I don't know. I wasn't there. I'm not the person.
I'm just saying, even if it was placebo, I just think, great. If placebo is that powerful, shouldn't we use it all the time?
Yeah, definitely.
Like, I know I've heard stories about, and in fact, there was a TED talk about a guy who had cancer. And then some doctor said that they found a cure for cancer, and it was like a special thing that was being trialled, and they gave him this injection, and his cancer went away. And then he went on the news like 3 or 4 months later or something, and then he found out that trial drug thing, whatever, wasn't effective. And then his cancer came back. Right. And then he went back to the doctor, and the doctor gave him something else. Said, no, this is a different version. We'll try this one.
Yeah, okay.
And gave it to him, and then his cancer went away. And then he was told again months later that the second one was nothing. It was a complete placebo.
Sure.
And then the cancer came back, and it was just that was just so much proof that your mindset is so powerful in dictating your experience. I mean, if the mere thought of thinking that this is a cure is enough to make it a cure, then why do we have the entire pharmaceutical industry?
Sure. Yeah.
And I know why, because somebody's making money off it.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? Like, it's just, our thoughts are so powerful in creating our reality. And I think there are a lot of organisations out there who wouldn't be very happy with everybody knowing that. Yeah,
definitely. I watched a really good documentary the other night, and I'm not really into the whole conspiracy thing, but it was about Rockefeller. And like his rise with oil, like he became a rich oil magnate. He was the world's first billionaire, but his reach actually extended a lot further past oil that many people realize. It actually went into education as well, and also the pharmaceutical industry. And yeah, I mean, you definitely the documentary itself is fascinating. It definitely has a conspiratory slant to it, which I'm a bit always, but there's definitely a lot of truth in that. And there's no doubt he had a lot of influence. All that group, like Rockefeller, who are all the other ones? All those uber old school wealthy, from the 19th century, turn of the 20th century. They've had such an influence on our society and the way we understand ourselves and the way we understand the world around us. It's been quite pervasive, and we're all just starting to realize now that, hey, actually perhaps the education system isn't what it should be, and perhaps the health industry isn't what it should be, and let's do something about it, because it's obviously not right. Do you know chemotherapy, I found out the other day, is like is an offshoot, and it comes from the use of mustard gas.
Oh, really?
Yeah. That's how they...
that's what they used in the World War, right?
Yeah, they used it in World War One. Yeah. And then they found an ability on using it on some sort of animal, I can't remember what, and their tumours decreased. So they thought, oh, well, let's see what we can do and turn this into a something that's a little bit safer to use. So they developed chemotherapy, which is basically just poisoning your body.
Jeez.
To a point where there's no more white blood cells and the immune system is cactus. I don't understand. I mean,
yeah, I know.
What's the point of that if you have cancer, or what's the point of knocking out all of your white blood cells when surely the opposite
I think the
would be
idea
true?
is, I mean, I'm no medical professional. I don't know anything about, treating cancer or anything. But, I mean, maybe it's kind of like how antibiotics work, but on a more extreme scale, where it just, because antibiotics, they get rid of everything, the good bacteria, bad bacteria, everything, and then you're supposed to go and fill it up with probiotics so that you get the good stuff in there. So maybe it's a bit like that, where chemo just like gets rid of everything, including the cancer,
flushes it out.
Yeah, that would be my guess.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I definitely get that, but like, isn't there other alternatives? And I feel that's what we're going through at the moment.
Yeah. Well, I know people who've killed themselves with cancer.
Yeah, so do I. Yeah.
People who've just done alternative natural remedies like the essential oils and things like that. And I mean, you can't promote that stuff, you know, because doctors won't have that, because a lot of the things aren't FDA approved and whatever else. But
do you know Candice Marie Fox?
Or
heard
briefly,
her name.
yeah.
She works with the Liberators as well.
Yeah.
I
think I've met her maybe once or twice.
Okay, cool. Awesome girl, really cool chick. So I've had her on here once, and she spoke about she had the same experiences and went through radiotherapy, and it didn't work. The cancer got worse, and she ended up healing herself through diet and meditation. We did a podcast on it. It actually got picked up by quite a few different places around the world, and the flack that she copped because of it. Like, she had a lot of support, but she also had a lot of people coming out calling bullshit on it, and she's trying to like as if there was something like malevolent about what she was trying to share.
But that's the thing. I mean, it's also to do with what society gets taught. I mean, the mass population gets taught there is no cure for cancer. That's the general accepted kind of attitude towards it. So as soon as somebody comes out and says otherwise, of course they're going to cop a lot of shit. Which is really sad, because I know several people who've done it.
Sure.
Just through, raw food, whole foods diets, the oils through meditation, yoga, tantric practices, emotional release and things like that. Because your emotions play such a big role.
That's a massive part of it, the emotional build-up and blockages that occur. Like, it makes sense that's related to overgrowth of cells, and which is what cancer is.
It's interesting now though, because only just now, like, science and media is catching up to it. You see these articles now, they're like, oh, your emotions play a part in your stress, which affects your physical well-being. And it's like, come on, get to it, people. Like,
but that's the thing. I think we've known that for a long time. I mean, like that saying, you worry yourself sick. It literally, you can worry yourself sick if you build up, especially if it's an anxiety about something in the future, like, and you worry about it and focus on it and really dwell on it, then you can make yourself sick. Like, we all know that you can make yourself nauseous.
I just think a lot of people want proof. They want that tangible proof. They want somebody to research and say, okay, this person had this emotional thing going on, and that was directly linked to this physical ailment. And because there isn't a lot, I mean, there's some research, but there isn't a huge amount out there about it. There are a lot of people that would just say, a physical ailment is a physical ailment, and an emotional thing is something completely different, and they'll put them in two separate boxes.
Well, it goes from the world of quantitative research into what you're discussing is qualitative, which is qualitative, which is really a lot harder for people to be able to digest and understand, because there's still that potential of calling bullshit on it. Wherever it's quantitative, it's set down, there's a formula, there's a rule, it's structured.
Well, this stuff could be quantified. It's just that there isn't any funding given towards it. Like, I have a friend who actually wants to research the effects of pranic healing in a medical setting, but to get funding and stuff for that, I mean, how many people are going to do that?
Sure.
I think there's one major study that I know of where they did a study of Reiki on, I think it was how fast, just healing times or something. I can't remember the exact details, but I mean, that's one study, If there was actually more funding for it, more research put into it, they would realise that there's actually a lot more to it. But who's going to fund it when nobody's making money off that?
Sure.
Because if everyone was pouring Reiki out left, right and centre, then you wouldn't have the need for the entire pharmaceutical industry. You wouldn't have the need for many of these hospitals. That's not to say that it makes it completely redundant. I think Western medicine definitely has its place. There are times when you need to do a surgery on someone for whatever reason. But I think a lot of the smaller and more common ailments,
Yep.
they can be fixed through natural means.
No doubt about
So,
it. Yeah.
You know, I mean, you don't need to keep rushing for the antibiotics and things
No.
like that when there are other options.
Yeah, for sure, definitely.
Mm.
Did I talk to you about a close friend of mine who I'm sure I'm not going to go into too much. I'm not going to give the person's name, but she ended up having a hysterectomy recently. But she's always had trouble with her menstrual cycles, but she's also very addicted to processed carbohydrates. You know, high GI glycemic index foods, and lots of sugar and all that sort of stuff. And it got to a point now where it's like her body, she just couldn't handle it anymore. So she went out to hysterectomy, and the doctor took it a couple of goes because the doctor was obviously apprehensive about doing it at first, but then he decided yes. But I was like, whew, okay, this is what's happening. She's having a physical response to the way she feels herself. Like, shouldn't that be where the focus is? Like, shouldn't that be where it really is quite amazing that they could go in there, do this operation on a minimum of fuss, really. You know, it's quite a bigger operation, but you know, really get understanding that Western medical science is pretty fantastic at the moment. But I mean, through cutting down on sugars, eating more healthy organic foods.
Sometimes it's easier for the person to just go to the hospital, have the operation,
Yeah.
rather than to change themselves.
I know.
Because to change
That's the
yourself requires inner work.
Sure.
And it's easier for people to have just that physical change
Yeah.
than to actually change their lifestyle. So
Isn't that like a symptom of where we've gone? There's like we've gone down the wrong road there. How do you feel about that? Or is that okay that we do that? We're judging then, aren't we?
I don't really think I can put a judgment on it like that.
Well, actually, you probably could, because when you think about it too, I mean, you look at the amount of money that goes into our health system, like into hospitals and a lot of things a lot of money that goes into hospitals and taking care of people comes from our taxes, right? Which is fine. Like I gladly pay my taxes if it means someone becomes healthier and gets better. No doubt about it. But a lot of that can be prevented just through a balanced, healthy eating and exercise.
I think people are getting to that point now, though. You know, I mean, you'll always get those people who are really stubborn, absolutely will not change themselves because, I don't know, maybe they take it personally, maybe, you know, maybe it's an identity crisis or whatever that comes up. I don't know. People have their own different reasons and whatever.
Are we allowed to say that some people are just weak as well? Really? There's definitely some people that are just, there's a loss of fortitude there, which lets them self down and the people around them as well.
I don't know if that's fair. I don't know if that's... I mean, weakness would only exist... no, I wouldn't call them weak. I would say that possibly there isn't enough support out there for those people. And it would be a case of willpower. Sure. You know, some people just don't want to change. You can't change everyone, you know. Like, you can see it. You can look at someone and say, oh, my God, what are you doing? You should be, you know, this is your very clear path of action. Yeah. But if they don't see it, you can't do anything. Well,
that's the thing, isn't it? Quite often I think you can, and I know I've been like this in the past, like it's like a fog that's envelops. So you can't really have, there's no way to get an objective understanding of what's going on. Like now, for whatever it might have been in the past, but like now, just health-wise, for example, if I eat something and I know like 2 hours later my stomach doesn't feel right, I'm well aware of why I don't feel good and what it was and how to change it next time. But some people, whether it's food or whether it's relationships or whatever it is, they do something that's not conducive for a healthy lifestyle, but because there's a fog that envelops, they're unaware of what it is.
It's just playing out those patterns. It's just that same old repetitiveness that comes through. I mean, like, I know someone in my life at the moment who is clearly in an abusive relationship. I'm sitting here going, what are you doing? Yeah. You know, but... Yeah, like, sure. You know, as far as having the conversation, I've said to this person, look, you know, the very obvious... If I were in your situation, the very obvious line of action would be to leave. And I know a lot of people would say, well, it's not that easy. And I totally get that. I totally get that. You can't just tell someone in an abusive relationship, why don't you just leave? I mean, that's the worst thing to say to them, you know? Yeah. But It's a very tricky situation because only that person can make that choice. Only that person can get themselves out of it. I mean, if they're not, it's a different thing if they've reached out for help. Like if that person actually came to me and said, hey, I'm in this relationship, I need to get out, can you help me? Then I would say, yes, you know, come stay with me, come, you know, like whatever you need, I can provide that for you. But if they're not even willing to leave, then what are you going to do about it?
Yeah.
Because as far as they're concerned, they don't even see it like that.
Sure.
They just think, oh, but, you know, and this person said to me, oh, but, you know, I don't really want to be alone. And, like, it's just the fears that come in. And, I mean, I have a lot of compassion for this person. I think this person is just making their own choices and is living their own life. And, you know, you can't rescue everyone. You can't change everyone. You can't. And that's when you have to just sit back and go, okay, this is what my life is right now. And you just got to let other people do what they're doing sometimes. Definitely,
Eesha. I think that goes back to something you said a little bit earlier about just holding space and just being there. And it's not so much about fixing the situation, which I know as a male especially, and for men, it's a really tough thing because we're all about like, if there's a problem, let's fix that. How can I fix this? And a lot of that's ego conditioning, but also, I mean, there's not that there's anything wrong with that as well. It's the masculine,
problem solving, you know.
Exactly.
It's just a very natural instinct to go, oh, there's this situation. Yeah, see, men, I think in general, are very good at very quickly coming up with a situation and a solution to something.
Sure.
So soon as something happens, while typically, I mean, we're going to stereotypes here, but typically the feminine will go through the emotional process of, you know, feeling upset or feeling angry or whatever, and the male's already come up with a solution and probably already enacted it, you know?
Totally emotionless as well.
Yeah,
like,
they've just gone and done it,
whereas
the
no
woman's
emotion.
like having all these processes behind it. I think that's just a bit of a natural thing.
Yeah, definitely. And I really feel like wisdom is about understanding when to apply it and when to not. Like at what moments is it best to, like, because there could be definitely a situation come across with a good friend or whatever it might be where you do need to, okay, let's get this situation fixed. We need to fix this now. But there's a lot of situations that don't require that. They just need the person to be able to go through that situation themselves or whatever it may be. And it's about holding space for that person.
And I think it's very powerful to let the person go through it sometimes.
Definitely, let them figure it out themselves.
Say, oh, but how can you stand there and watch it happen? But it's just, you know, sometimes a person just has to go through whatever they're going through. If you can go as far as saying, you can point it out to them, you say, look, this is your situation, this is how I see it, and if I were you, this is what I would do. And if they don't want a bar of it, then you've done your job.
Sure.
You know, you've done the part where you've pointed out, you've given them that level of awareness from an outside perspective. But if they don't have that awareness themselves, there's nothing you can do for them.
No, definitely not.
Because even if you keep telling them again and again and again, they're going to end up resenting you. And if, say, for example, we go to this example of the, you know, abusive relationship, if I wanted to, I could push really hard and say, you have to get out, you have to do this, you have to, you know, this is bad for you. I could go and convince them. But then if they left the relationship because of me convincing them, then either they would end up resenting me for, you know, the breakdown in the relationship, or they would become dependent on me.
Yeah.
And I've had this happen where when I was a lot younger, see, I'm quite vocal, quite opinionated. Like, I'll just say what I think, you know. And when I was younger, I was a lot less tactful. And so I remember talking to this person once, and he was actually about to go and get married to this woman, and it was an arranged marriage. He was this guy in India. And I just, through talking to him, I talked him out of his marriage, you know. Like,
Eesha, how dare you?
And I mean, this has been a really big part of, I've never actually talked about this before, so this is like a pretty big event that's happened for me. But I was 17 at the time, and I took this guy out of his arranged marriage that his parents and everything had set up. But I just said to him, like, oh, what are you doing? Why are you having arranged marriage? And, you know, here's me with a Western upbringing thinking this is ridiculous. And I'm going and saying all this stuff to him. And so he actually cancelled his whole marriage. And then, like, and then he projected this whole dependence thing on me, where he then decided that he was going to be completely madly in love with him for, like, saving him or something like that, you know. And
completely madly in love with you.
Yeah, with me. Like, and I didn't know what to do with that, because what does a 17-year-old do with that, you know? Like,
sure.
I was too young for any of that. Well, I mean, firstly, it was a lesson in you know, playing with people's lives. I know at the time I was being really authentic, and, you know, that was the result of what happened. Like, I wasn't intending for any of that to happen, but that's how it happened. And then he ended up projecting all of that onto me because somehow I was that person that walked in and, I don't know, fixed his life or something. And then I obviously wasn't there for him, you know, I couldn't be there for him. And then he ended up going through heartbreak and like all this other stuff. And then he married someone else and, you know, but for years he was like totally obsessed with me. And that's, I mean, that's what happens sometimes. And that's why sometimes I kind of just go, you know what, I'm just going to let you do your own thing. And maybe that's just me, you know, out of fear and whatever myself. But, you can't meddle with everyone's lives like that.
No.
Like I've learned to now step back a little bit and just honor other people's experiences, because if I try and actively change everyone's life path, I don't know, like it just doesn't seem right, you know? It doesn't seem right to just project my opinion and my views on somebody else's life. I mean, they're perfectly entitled, they're capable. If I go around telling everyone what to do, what am I saying? I'm saying that I know better, that I'm somehow better than these people, and I don't want to do that at all. I just want the person to feel empowered enough to make their own choices. If I see something, I might say it to them, but I'm going to let them make the choice. I don't convince people anymore of what to do. I just think it's not my role to do that.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, the best way to really approach it is just to discuss it, just to be it as well. And then if someone around you picks up on it or that helps them to show them in a way, then really I think that's something, you and I can both agree with, and a lot of people can agree with, is the best way to help someone.
Yeah.
You know, like... Yeah.
I think a big part of what I do at Siddhi Space is, I mean, I've built this life for myself where I wake up every day and I love what I do, and I don't always go around telling people about it. I just kind of live it, and then my people will come and say to me, oh, I saw this thing that you were doing and it really inspired me to do this other thing. And just by me being myself, I think I'm just naturally influencing people around me. I think people are just seeing what I'm doing, and then they're taking parts of that. Yeah, sure. And it's very different from if I were to stand here and, you know, shout in everyone's face, hey guys, look at me, look at what I'm doing, this thing is amazing. And I think that was very much the old paradigm, especially of business.
Definitely, you know, marketing, advertising,
business marketing, all of that.
Walk right up, right up. Come and check out these amazing bargains we have on offer and all that sort of shit.
Totally, yeah. And I think there was a place for it. I think now it's more just
cringe.
Be yourself, and then I think it's more powerful to demonstrate what it is you're trying to do than to try and preach or tell someone else how to do it.
Yeah, definitely.
So I don't in any way now consider myself a healer, a teacher, any of that stuff. I just live my life, and in doing so, all my energy now is focused inwards into the space. I'm not projecting outwards into a lot of that, you know, trying to get people or trying to get people's attention. Like I still do a bit of marketing and stuff, but it's a lot more organic now. And I think it's more just from a space of, I have this thing that I want to share. If you're on the same page as me, you come and join me.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
Brilliant. And that's the most effective way to do it, you know. And if 5 people rock up, all well and good. If 50 people rock up, all well and good. It doesn't matter.
Exactly.
And it doesn't change you either.
See, the thing is, if nobody rocks up, I still do the thing.
Yeah.
Like I have meditations every Friday night. Nobody comes, if nobody comes, I set up those meditations for me.
Yeah, cool.
I love to start my weekend by meditating on a Friday night. Now, if people want to join me, they can join me.
Yeah.
And if people think they would rather do something else on a Friday night, so be it. It's not about that at all. It's just about me living the life that I want to live. Yep. And I always assume that if I'm doing it, somebody else out there is probably going to want the same thing.
Sure.
And so I've just opened up the space. If anyone wants to be on the same page as me at any given point in time, the invitation is there.
Sure. And just like that amazing movie Field of Dreams, if you have to watch it. You have to watch it now.
Yeah.
You've built it and they will come. So just what you're talking about, I feel like it's authenticity. So like I've really noticed in both myself and well, I can only really say for myself as well, but like the more authentic I become in myself and the more authentic I am with myself, like, so I'm talking like no lying, no bullshit, no, like they're the people that I've attracted into my life now, like really authentic people and really honest people I can really rely on. And that really just came about because I was starting to become more authentic It wasn't the other way around. It wasn't like I just started meeting all these really cool, authentic people, and then I became authentic, thinking, oh, fuck, I've got to start being authentic now. It was very much like me making the decision.
I will say, though, I think there is a little bit of bouncing back and forth.
Oh, you've got me thinking now, Eesha. Probably there is a
because I've had a lot of people around me
Yeah.
who I think it's kind of like, you know, you're at that point where you're sort of ready for it,
Yeah, I
and
know
you
what you
make
mean.
that first step. Like for
Yeah.
me, I think it was when I first walked into a Tantra workshop, and I met a whole bunch of people who were really dedicated to just being totally okay with themselves as they are.
Yeah.
And even though I had asked for it, I don't think I was there. I think I was still very much in this world of, like, I was pretty closed off with myself. Like, I think I wasn't always honest even with myself. And even though I was, you know, I try to be a good person, don't tell lies, all that kind of stuff, it just took it to a whole new level, seeing a whole group, like a room of women who were acting in that way, and it was normal. It was okay. For example, it was okay to cry in front of a room of people. That for me, like, blew my mind. You know, I would never have done that.
Yeah.
I would have even thought that was normal.
Yeah.
And so I think I was ready for it, and then it was there.
Right.
And then I learned from that, and then I contributed back to it.
Yeah, brilliant. Yeah,
It's a bit of both.
Bit of both. Yeah, it definitely makes sense. So you need that bit of push and pull. But yeah, it's definitely the influences that we have around us, like role models, if you will, can really be there to help us. And then it's our decision if we want to start living in a way that's very similar to another person or group. And if it feels good, just go with it. You know?
Well, you know the old saying, when the student is ready, the teacher appears. I mean, I think you
love
have
that
to
saying.
be at a certain level of openness. That's not to say that, you know, you're at full mastery straight away. I mean, I in no way consider myself anywhere near that point.
Yeah.
But soon as I got to the point where I was at least open to it, boom, all the teachers appeared.
Nice.
Like, it all just fell into place around me. I'm so amazed at how many awesome people we have in Perth, you know?
Yeah.
Like, it's
great.
amazing how much we've got going on here, and the level of, I guess, just the level of light that we have in the city. The people that I've met in the last 7 to 8 months have blown my mind. I have so much respect for pretty much everyone who's in my circle of awareness now.
Yeah.
But I think I just had to be at a point where I was open to it.
Sure.
And also, it was a shift in belief system for me as well. Because I used to think, and I used to be told that there was like a few people who were, you know, kind of more spiritual, and that they were somehow better than everyone else. And like, I used to get told, oh, like, I'm so lucky to know these people because, you know, there are so few of us. Now I sit there and go, well, that's rubbish. Now my whole world is surrounded by like amazing people, and there's no scarcity, there's no shortage of amazing people to be around. You know, it's not like there's just a select group of us. It's like, this is my reality now.
Definitely.
And especially with Siddhi Space, I mean, it attracts people like me.
Yeah.
So over the last few weeks, especially since I've started running the Friday night meditation groups, I've just met all these really cool people in Perth. I'm like, oh my God, like, Perth has just expanded so much for me because of it.
Yeah,
it's just
sure.
this whole little community that's coming together now.
Yeah, very much so. And I think the big difference we have now compared to, let's say 2 years ago, like now, if you go through something or experience something, no matter if it's a vision, a dream, something to do with psychedelics or whatever it is, something that really profound happens to you. You might have gone traveling for 6 months and you've got a real new perspective on life, a real novel perspective on life. There is a fucking amazing group of people in Perth now that you can become associated with. A lot of that's got to do with, I think, Facebook's really helped with that, like bringing people together. What Jana's doing with Perth Tribe Awakening
is amazing.
It's just absolutely brilliant. And the people that she's bringing in together is phenomenal. Like, I often think about this actually, like how grateful I am to have the people around me, because if it wasn't for these really just quite amazing close friends that I've had for, especially over the last 3 or 4 years, like, I don't think I would have been able to get through all that I've got through as well as I have. You know, I've just been very fortunate. Now I feel like I hate to use the word obligation, but it's sort of similar to you as well, where you're very fortunate to have all these people around you. Now, let's also help those who don't. Like, let's also help those who, and that's what the men's gatherings that Daniel Price and I are doing. It's very much about that as well. Like, for men to get, like, similar to you with that, you're talking about that Tantra circle. Like for me, the idea of actually attending a men's, like something where men go and talk, if I had heard about that 3 or 4 years ago, I would have rolled my eyes back and no thanks, that sounds too much for me. A lot of it was just my own ego and thought patterns, what I've been structured. But out of the 3 gatherings that we've had so far, each of them has just been incredible. Like every man's been there and just represented. There's no like fluffy woo-woo bullshit that goes on. You know, it's just like what you did, what you would want, like, well, should say what I wanted out of it anyway, and what Daniel also was asking for is what we've been able to bring up and really just manifest. And it's brilliant. It's so good. And I think there definitely needs to be, I feel there needs to be more of that. There needs to be more collectives getting together, more communities, groups, places like what you've started operating. Tasha's doing the same as well. Natasha Kelly, Jana with Perth Tribe Awakening, because it's ultimately going to benefit more and more people. And the idea of being isolated, kept in your nuclear family, away from your fellow brothers and sisters, we know now does not work.
Well, I think, yeah, you're right. And first, I'll say I love the work that you guys do. I don't know what happens in your men's circles, but...
I can't tell you, Eesha. I'd have to kill you.
Not quite the right gender for that.
Not quite. You're missing a few...
Yeah, a few bits.
few body parts, yeah.
Which is a bit sad. I would actually come otherwise.
Sure.
But yeah, I think it's amazing that you've set up a space for men to actually go to and just be authentically men.
Yeah.
I mean, I know for me, women's circles have really helped me a lot. When I was going through a lot of stuff last year, those women's circles just totally held me. They supported me.
Cool.
And they gave me the chance to be completely raw and authentic, and there was no judgment. There was no stigma. It was just whatever I was going through was okay. And that's all I needed. That's all anyone needs. They just need a space where they can be heard, where they can be seen, where they can feel like they can just be themselves.
Sure.
And that's what these community groups offer. And there's something so powerful in having the separate women's and the men's groups, because I think it's just a different energy. You know, women understand women. They understand how each other work. You know, in our women's circles, there's a lot of talking. There's a lot of, you know, there might be emotions. There might be things that come up. And we can also talk about things like men. Yeah. I'm sure you guys would talk about women as well. Like, it's just something, it's a safe environment for us to do that without any judgment.
Yeah,
so,
for sure.
Yeah, it's amazing. I think there definitely needs to be more of that. And I think we are moving more back towards our community nature. Yeah. Because back in the day, we used to live, you know, in groups of 100, 150 people. Yeah. And that would be your tribe. Yeah. And
Dunbar's
they
rule.
Used, they used to get together, you know, on the full moons, and they would have their men's ceremonies and the women's ceremonies, and they'd get together in their tribal celebrations. And I think we, like Perth especially, is really moving towards that. I mean, we've got all the full moon drumming now, like on the full moon evenings, and we've got the TP sessions, you know, with John Wife and things like that. And
the
that
tribal fire ceremony, April 9th, everybody. There's still some tickets left for the men.
Shameless plug.
The women have sold out, but if you're, to the men out there listening to this, fire tribal ceremony. Eesha, you were part of the first one.
I was part of the first one.
It was pretty good, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I think it's grown a lot in this last one was only like 20 men and 20 women. No,
it was about 13 or 14 men and about 15 women.
Yeah, so
plus some few extras.
This one's going to be like 50.
50 of each. We're having we're probably by the time it's all done, we're probably going to have about 110 people.
Yeah, geez, wow.
It's going to be incredible. But yeah, I mean, it is an intrinsic part of being a human being. I think that's what we all got from the first tribal fire ceremony. It was like, right, okay, this is what it's like to be a human being. This is what it's like to be a male, or this is what it's like to be a female. You know, we had a sort of like a set structure where the males get together beforehand, females get together beforehand, and then sort of halfway through the night we both come together and honor each other, not only for the men to honour their masculinity and the women to honour their femininity, but then for both sexes to honour each other, which doesn't really occur too much in our society.
I'm loving this whole movement of the divine masculine, divine feminine. Like even what we did the other night at the beach. Yeah, that was brilliant. Tash organised, and just having the chance. So this is it was International Women's Day, wasn't it?
That's right.
So having the opportunity for the men to hold space for the women, but then the women to also be grateful. And I think that part I think that part was missing before, where I mean, I know I, for one, have definitely been very ungrateful at times where I've just wanted the man to always be there, always holding space, without realizing that they have their feminine aspect as well.
Yeah.
And to honor that and to give back to that as well.
Sure.
And then at the same time, for the men to understand that it's okay for the women or the feminine to go through all the wild emotions and the crazy ups and downs, and, you know, and just to be okay with that. And again, it comes down to not wanting to fix. Yeah. Because there's so much of this, like I know I've experienced it where I've gone through a lot of emotional times, and the masculine has come and basically, instead of holding space for it, has decided to try and fix it somehow.
Yeah, because it's annoying.
You know, pat me on the back and make me feel better kind of attitude.
Now,
and I'm like,
you'll be
no,
right.
just let me go through it. Like, let me be angry. Let me be sad. Let me be whatever authentic emotion I'm feeling right now, because that's where I'm at. Yeah. And if you can't handle it, at the very least, leave me alone so I can go through the process, you know?
Yeah, most definitely.
I don't think it's nice for women to be told they have to fix. And I think men sometimes, and this is something I've learned just, you know, through interacting with men, is that they use humour. So, like, they'll bring up a joke at the worst possible time. Like, you know, women's having a meltdown over here, and he tries to have a joke. And I totally get the intention. It's to, you know, lighten the mood and stuff. Yeah. But yeah, it's just this idea of understanding the sexes and where they're at, and you know, holding space but also not being too demanding. And I think it's nice that we're exploring more of this through the different women's circles, and, you know, coming together so we can actually say, okay, I honour where you're at and you honour where I'm at, and you know, it's just a bit more harmonious. Yeah,
definitely. We're finding something that's working. And I think, you know, we've been through the industrial age, the technological age, where we've lost a lot of our humanness, but now we're starting to really find that again, and what it takes to make us happy and content and be able to get through things. But definitely from a male's point of view, we spoke about this before too, like how we do want to try and fix things, because I think a lot of it too is, like, as a man, it's quite hard for us to deal with suffering. We don't like seeing suffering in the world. It's, you know, and so it's like, oh, shit, let's fix that, you know. And we do that with the women in our life as well. Like, I've definitely been that. But a lot of the time, you guys
do see quite rationally. Like, I mean, if you see a woman,
and there's nothing wrong with that, I should say either.
No, totally. And I think women are starting to learn to honour that as well in men. You know, like, I, for one, I can now look at a man and say, okay, I get where you're coming from. I get that this is your rational instincts coming in, where you want to try and fix it, and then it's just about open communication and saying, right now what I need is space, or I need, you know, so that we're not walking over each other. That
can be the toughest thing though, when you're both in a bad mood. You know, like,
totally,
fuck off, I don't want to talk about it. But a lot of our, I think, issues as far as male goes is that inability just to hold space and just to be there, be strong enough and get ourselves out of the way. Because, like, I know for myself in the past, when I've been with someone and they've gone through a tough time, I'll make it about me. Like, I'll be like, oh, how about giving me some attention? Or how about, you know, you're not giving me any attention anymore. You're too worried about yourself, which is utterly not the right way to go about it.
Right. That takes a lot of self-reflection to say that. So
Well, you know, that's what I'm all about, Eesha. But I think it's something that's starting to more men, because I just wasn't aware of even the idea of holding space for a woman, just being there, and I like the idea of that wasn't even in my mind. I'd never been taught that. I'd never been shown that that's a good way to do it up until, you know, very recently, the last year or two. But I've found how, like, it really helps. Now that I've practiced it, it really does help not only myself but the people I'm with. But yeah, like, can I also make mention to something that you touched on there as well? I think we need the same thing from the women as well. Like, but it's different. Like, what men really feed on, and we have to be careful that it's not an ego thing, but a lot of it's about appreciation. And I think just in the same way, women need sometimes just someone to listen to them and go through it. We always, like, men on our thing of that on the flip side, of the male side, is a showing of appreciation.
So you would like the women to show more appreciation, is that?
But it can be a tough thing to say. Like, it can be a tough. Some people go, you know, whoa, what's wrong, Adrian? You don't feel like you're appreciated, and it's not that at all.
You've got to do the inner work. Why aren't you feeling appreciated? Your self-esteem.
Exactly.
You know?
But exactly. But it's not that at all. And I'm sure for men, for some men that is the case.
Yeah.
But
No, I totally understand, and I've come across this in my interaction with men as well, where they just need to be appreciated, and sometimes
because a lot of men aren't appreciated at all. There's no appreciation.
Well, sometimes I think, and you know, this is something that I'm working on. I just think, oh, but of course I appreciate you. Why do I need to say it?
Yeah, I know, right? Exactly. Yeah, of course I love you. Why don't you tell you I love you all the time? Of course I love you.
But then I get the other side of it as well, because there are times when I need to hear it, and then I go, why aren't you telling me? And then the man's like, oh, but you know, I was distracted with something else. You know? And so maybe it's just a mutual human thing where people just want to feel appreciated and loved, and maybe we should just be saying it all day, every day.
Sure, yeah.
You know, just all the time.
Perhaps. But it is definitely a mix of what you touched on a moment ago, is that we also need to get that within inside ourselves first. Like I don't mind admitting this, I fucking love myself, Eesha. Like I reckon I'm the duck's nuts. Like I've got a real appreciation for myself, you know, like I look after myself, and it's a really good feeling. So whenever someone else says it on top of that, like a friend of mine messaged me the other day, she said just really appreciated me helping her with this sort of thing. I was like, yeah, cool. Like I was really able to soak that in and appreciate her appreciation. Whereas in the past, I would have used it to fill a hole within inside myself, or with a lack that would have like been a plug for a moment in time until something else happens. So I really think that it can be abused. And that's when we come into that thing of like feeling forced to appreciate someone. That's what codependency is. Yeah, definitely. It's like a lack within ourselves. So our emotional stability and our emotional input is really based on our environment, our surroundings, and most often our partner who we're with. That's codependency right there, without finding it inside ourselves first.
So See, this is what I question. So, just because I'm really thinking about it now, so I think there's a fine line between saying, okay, I'm completely whole in myself, and thus, you know, I've got a really high self-esteem, totally love myself, don't need to hear it from anyone, and if nobody said to me that I love you, you know, I'd be fine, right? That's me being completely whole, right? Then how does that change when you're all of a sudden with somebody else who's also whole, but at the same time you're in relationship together and you are going to lean on each other, appreciate each other, you know, have those interactions, but there's none of that, I guess, that necessity to fill any voids. Yeah. I'm so curious, and I think this is the new paradigm relationship. I really think that with the healing of the masculine and the feminine and you know, all that coming together, it's two people who, if they were completely on their own, would be 100% fine, but then together, it's a different way of interacting. What would that look like for you? I think to me it looks like creation. I really feel from that space when men and women come together, or like I shouldn't just say men and women. Like if you're in a homosexual relationship as well, it's exactly the same thing. Yeah, two different energies, the masculine and the feminine. When they come together, that's a powerful place of creation. And if you can come together as a let's just say as a man and a woman, from a space where there's a wholeness already there, you're not like, a lot of relationships are just this karmic fucking cycle of like working out, like it's just constant, like there's no evolution in it, because it's just constantly like feeding upon insecurities and self-doubts and jealousy and all this bullshit. And it doesn't allow for creation, because you're so often just so encapsulated in trying to like fix the situation you're in at the present moment. But yeah, I mean, I haven't been in a relationship for a few years now, and I'm a lot different to the last time I was in a relationship. So I'm excited to find out like what it occurs, and I'll go so far as to say I'm not going to be in a relationship with anyone who hasn't done the work on themselves. Like if I've come across a woman who hasn't, then I can't. I just can't even consider it. Right? Couldn't consider it. It's not the way it is. So I definitely am excited if or when that time does come where it feels like it's right. But I'm more excited about what's going to be created out of it than anything. Yeah. I completely agree. I think, my vision for this whole new relationship thing is, when you've got two people who are completely solid in themselves, who don't have that need to be with someone in order to feel whole, then it's, who's that person who says that quote where instead of looking that love is not looking at each other, it's gazing out in the same distance or something. I have to find that quote. It's a really beautiful quote. But anyway, it's this idea that the two of you aren't looking at each other, you're looking out at what you're creating. And that's the best way to actually create a life together, because then you end up walking one step together at a time rather than ending up leaning on each other.
Sure.
That idea of leaning on each other, I mean, that again is codependency, I think. That's that idea of I need you on a conditional basis for X, Y, and Z. If you're not fulfilling these needs, then you're no longer useful to me, and I'm going to kick up a bit fuss about it.
I'm going to resent you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Motherfucker.
Yeah, and I think look, a lot of people have been in those kinds of
relationships. Like, I think most of us, but I really don't feel, and I'm sure you don't feel this way either, that it has to be that way. It's really because it's like, as a society, that's, there's a lot of social ills. There's a lot of things that could be done better. And I feel like at the moment, what we're doing as this group, as this collective, it's a form of social engineering. It really is, like creating something that's more conducive to happy, content lifestyles and relationships as well.
Do you think in that creation would be an aspect of service? Like, I really feel like when there are two people who are really, have got it together, that when they're in relationship together, it becomes about creating something that then services the greater humanity rather than just working on themselves. Because when two people are still in that phase of that karmic back and forth, they're fixing, I say fixing, but you know what I mean? Like they're rebalancing parts of themselves.
Yeah, sure.
Whereas once they're done with that, and all the wounds have gone and they've cleared out all their
traumas or whatever.
Whatever they've gone through, then they can start actually creating from a heart space, and then that creation assists the whole planet. So I really feel like couples who come together from that place of service and who are here to really just allow that flow of energy through them, to be that conduit, I think that is the most powerful form of relationship, because then you've got your divine masculine, your divine feminine, and then you've got the true creation coming through that. In fact, have you heard this whole thing about the twin flames? Like, everyone talks about twin flames and ascension and I was hoping you could shed some light on that.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, Honey talks about it a lot. The twin flame and...
Well, that's supposed to be the whole new energy thing where it's like the twin flames come together, and because that is the strongest love.
Sure.
It's non-karmic. It's, well, some of them are. Some of them are very karmic. But those real soul love relationships where they've gone through all their shit and then that's how they can really create the new paradigm. I'm so interested to see how this unfolds over the next decade or so,
So am I. And the children that are born out of it as well.
Oh, the children.
The kids. I mean, there's something quite incredible going on with some of the children that are out and about these days in the world. Totally. And a lot of that's got to do with like more and more people starting to like just fix their shit up, really. Both as individuals and when it comes to relationships.
About the new paradigm children, right? Like there's the crystal children, the indigo children, all of that.
And there's another one. There's like a third one, crystal or something.
Yeah, so the main ones is that first was I think indigos came first.
Yep.
Then it was the crystals, and then now it's the rainbow children. But there's actually 77 soul pods that are coming out. There's like aqua. There's they're all resonant with different energies. There's like I think it's like 11 or 7 main groups, and then within that there are subgroups, and it's 77 in total. So this stuff is very fascinating for me because I work with children. So I love to see these new different energies coming in, and sometimes I look at a child and I'll go straight up, like I get that they're from the other planet, and even their parents might not always realize it. So this is a different way that you handle them. And that's why so many of these kids are getting diagnosed with ADD, ADHD, Asperger's, like so many different things. And not to discredit, the medical side of things. Like I know that sometimes it's chemical imbalances and things like that.
Definitely.
But I have had very successful experiences with taking a child who's having a meltdown, who's got ADHD, and then teaching them a grounding technique.
Perfect.
Just teaching them, because their energy is just all over the place.
Yeah, exactly.
And so I just
so erratic.
Take them and I mean, some of these kids, they don't have parents who know anything about meditation and yoga and crystals and stuff like that. So I'll just go in and do my energy thing. You know, like I was doing yoga with some kids not too long ago, and this kid was really like all over. So I just went over, just, you know, pulled the energy down a little bit, and just, you know, I just sort of do my thing. Some people, like I've had some people say to me, oh, but don't you ask permission? I'm like, if I'm in that space, I assume I'm there because I'm there to help them, and so I just go and do it.
And it's only just a bit of movement. What's the difference between playing like chasey and doing a bit of stretching and yoga and limbering?
I'm talking about energy work though. Like I'll go and
okay. Sure.
Yeah, like sometimes I'll just do a bit of energy work with the kids that are around, and part of it's just, I think it's quite natural for me. I mean, me walking into a space is already affecting the energy, as with everyone else, you know. So a little bit extra, I'm like, can't do it too badly.
If it helps. So have you really noticed the difference in some of the children coming through? Like, you can feel like compared to like when you were, I mean, it's hard when you're around the same age, but, you know, is there something a bit...
I pick up on it. I mean, it's hard to say exactly how I know, but sometimes I'll just look at a kid and I'll be like, yep, they are so like crystal or so rainbow, or you can just kind of tell, I guess.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
There's some kids that are just a bit different, and, you know, it's...
Yeah, and I think it's just about understanding them, because some of these children, their energies are very connected to the galactics and the different beings out there. And so some of them, they're a bit spaced out, or they're a bit just...
they just don't get it, this world. They're just
I mean, a lot of them end up being very slow talkers and walkers and things like that. But you can actually... I mean, I've actually been able to intuitively connect with some of them as well, especially when they're little babies, like just sort of... You can sort of just tell what's going on with them without really having to speak to them. So I don't know, maybe it's just like a telepathic thing, or not really sure. But you can just communicate with them. Yeah,
sure. Nice. Well, Eesha, how can people find out about Siddhi Space and the different bits and pieces that you're doing with that?
I have a website that I just opened yesterday.
Oh, really? Nice. I'll make sure I'll put a link up.
And I'm actually I'm making another website, because I've got one for me. It's eeshapatel.com.
Okay.
And then I'm in the process of making siddhispace.com as well.
Okay.
So people will be able to go on there, find out all the events. At the moment, the regular ones that we have are the Friday night meditations.
Okay.
We've also got Thursday night Kundalini yoga with another lady comes and does that. The space is also available for workshops and stuff. So, I mean, one aspect of it is what I do. The other part is if there's anyone in Perth who needs a venue, I've got lots of different rooms that they can utilise, even for private practitioners and stuff like that. Because I've got one room that has a massage table. I've got another one that has a big copper pyramid. So if people want to hire it out for energy work or sound healings or yoga or anything like that, it is available.
Cool.
So there's a lot that happens there. Then there's the raw food cooking once a month, the essential oils classes that I do about once a month as well, and my beloved sacred geometry ceremonies. Those ones are as guided. I just get told when to do them, and so they're a bit more ad hoc.
Sure.
And the music of the plants is my next biggest project.
Okay.
So if people are interested in connecting with plants, I mean, this is a very sacred experience. I'm keeping it to only 8 people, and for this one I'm actually going through a bit of an interview process with them, because I really want to get people who get the intent behind what I'm doing. Because it's a whole 4-week program where we'll learn about the plants, and we'll go through and train the plants how to sing and actually do all of that. So if people are interested, they're definitely welcome to apply.
Nice. And whereabouts is it based?
Wangara.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just off Ocean Reef Road.
Okay, cool.
It's like near a gym, and you can always find it because it's opposite the PLE computers.
Nice.
Yeah,
I think that's what, and we really need to see more of that stuff north of the river in the northern suburbs. There's a little bit. I think there's that place at Kookaburra, something or another up.
Kookaburra Creek. That's a bit.
It's like Blancelin or something, perhaps even like it's way north. But there's obviously a lot of things in Fremantle and a couple of things in around the city centre, but there's not so much north of the river.
Yeah, I've noticed that as well. That's why I find where I am is I'm getting a very different market. Like a lot of the people that come through my space, they haven't meditated before. They haven't, like a lot of this stuff is new for them.
Sure.
And I think it's just because there hasn't been a lot of this stuff available in the area. And heaps of them say, oh yeah, Fremantle's too far. And so definitely. It is a nice area to be in. Yeah,
for sure. Yeah, something that's new, novel, and something that's really going to help a lot of people in and around that way. So if you're from around that way, please go check it out. It's Siddhi Space. Yeah. What do you think, Eesha? Is there anything else you'd like to discuss or
No, I feel like we've
chat
covered a
about?
lot of different things. I feel like we should have recorded the kitchen stuff as well, though, 'cause
Yeah,
that was really good.
Every podcast I do always end up having like 95% of the time always end up having like an epic conversation beforehand and afterwards as well. There's usually I always just keep recording, and sometimes I'll edit like what we talk about after the podcast and load that up as well. It's almost like a second podcast on its own, so
Yeah.
I find that quite enjoyable. I've been touching my microphone quite a lot. I don't know what that says about things at the moment, Eesha, but I'll put it away to side. You haven't?
I have noticed.
Oh, you have,
yeah.
Okay, I don't usually do it, but for some reason today I've just been playing on microphone a lot. So I'll stop that now. But yeah, Eesha, thank you very much for coming on the podcast, and yeah, I really appreciate you taking the time to do this. So
Oh, thank you.
yeah.
I just love these conversations. I find
yeah,
them
exactly. Even if we
awesome.
didn't have a camera going, I mean,
still
you know,
do it.
you and I have been very lucky to have known each other, well, since Honey was here last year, actually, and
Yeah.
had some pretty cool conversations in the times that we've bumped into each other since. So to be able to do it with a camera and microphones is a little bit different, but no less enjoyable and also important, really. So
Yeah. It's for others get to share in the conversation.
yeah,
as well, so
yeah, exactly.
it's nice.
And even if it's like one thing that they pick up on that really helps, then that's great. Also, everyone, stop eating sugar. I just like to put out there.
What is
Processed
this? What, did you say we're not
carbohydrates.
supposed to tell people what to do?
Yeah, I know. I wasn't not supposed to tell people what to do. Can I just be one thing? Like, if anyone out there, I know you may have an addiction to sugar,
Watch
and you
that
might not be
sugar
aware of
film.
it. Which one's that?
That sugar film? No, it's called That Sugar Film.
Oh, right.
I think that's actually what it's called. I haven't seen it, but
Sure.
apparently a lot of people have watched it, and it's put them off sugar completely.
Yeah, a couple of really good friends of mine have. I've noticed it with especially a lot of vegetarians, especially. A lot of vegetarians don't eat that healthy. You know, they compensate with less meat by eating a lot of processed foods and sugars, especially. And I find chocolates, and I find like a lot of people I know are vegetarian generally have worse diets than those who do eat meat and have a more balanced health and eating lifestyle. Sugar is the origins of sugar. I'm going to have to go on a bit of a rant about this. But like the origins of sugar come from like the mass marketing of sugar comes from massive plantations throughout the Caribbean, throughout the West Indies, all based off slave labor. So slavery really in that part of the world through America started off. It wasn't through corn and cotton in America. Before that, it was sugar and these sugar plantations. So the actual genesis of sugar itself comes from quite an evil place, but the actual effect that it has in your body. And I'd like really implore anyone who wants to know more about it to check out the podcast I did with Heath Daly, the owner of the Raw Food Kitchen in Fremantle, who's just a wealth of knowledge about eating and the fuel that we put in our bodies and how it really affects us. And you know, it does detrimental things to our insulin levels and our hormones with that as well. Really starves the brain, too much sugar. And I've noticed myself since getting rid of a lot of sugar, I've always felt pretty good, but my energy levels now are just so much better, and focus and all that sort of thing. I'm noticing it, of course. I'm sure everyone, you know, a lot of people who gain a lot of weight and are obese, it's not got to do with eating fat. It's not got to do with eating too much.
Sugar turns to fat, right? Like sugar.
Actually, yeah.
If there's excess sugar, I'm pretty sure actually turns to fat.
Yeah. So that's what insulin's for. Insulin is there. So when we have sugar come into our system, insulin is there to like process it and then to excrete it, get it out of our body. But there's only so much insulin can do. And if there's an excess of sugar, either through sugar itself or from carbohydrates, it then is converted into fat afterwards. So a lot of our obesity problem in this world isn't really got to do with eating, you know, like the side of fat that you might get on a piece of steak. That's actually quite good fat. A lot of it is from sugars. So yeah, it's something I think the world is waking up to at the moment. So anyway, That's what I like.
One takeaway.
That's one.
Quit sugar.
Just one takeaway. Even just to start with, stop putting sugar in your
then
coffee.
Come join the raw food bandwagon at Siddhi Space.
Yeah, sure. Well, actually, I want to look into raw food a bit more, but I've also heard like points of view that raw food isn't that good for you as well.
You have to.
As
you
long
have to be
if
very
it's-
careful with it. See, with
Sure.
raw food, it depends on what you're making, and as with anything else, it's all about balance. It's all about making sure you're having
Definitely.
a bit of everything.
Exactly.
See, raw foods, the easiest way to do raw foods is to use a lot of nuts. So everything ends up being substitute for nuts. For example,
Yep.
like your raw cheesecakes is all nuts. Your pizza bases is all nuts. If you start having too many nuts, you end up getting all the fatty acids from the nuts, and then you
Yep.
have a very nut-heavy diet, and it's actually not good for you at all.
Sure.
So when you do raw foods properly, it is actually a lot of salads. It's a lot of whole foods.
Yep.
So a lot of your
Whole
sprouts.
foods is where it's at.
Yeah. And so when you do it properly and you're actually taking into account, how many fruits you're having, how many vegetables you're having, if you do it right, raw
Yep.
food is a really good way to go.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think it's very difficult to do a purely raw food diet because,
Sure.
let's be honest, I love to have a soup in winter,
Yeah.
So
Definitely, yeah.
But
And also, hey, listen, if you want to eat meat, if you feel like this is why I feel about it, and of course, anyone else can do anything they want, but God damn it, do I not feel better after eating a decent rump steak or I really do. I feel like for my constitution, eating red meat, and I only do it perhaps once every fortnight or a month, and from ethical sources as well, please, people, if you're going to eat meat, please do it from somewhere where it's not, it doesn't have the energy about it. It can definitely be important, and I think it's more about following what your body needs
100%,
rather than
100%.
relying on outside
and then
doctrine.
not having that judgment as well, because
Not
I
having
think
that judgment.
having the judgment and then that emotional guilt and all that is probably worse than just going and eating the thing that you were going to eat.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
same, even if you were going to have like a chocolate bar or something, if you really want it, have it. Just don't feel bad about doing it.
Yeah, definitely.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. Understand what it's all about and really appreciate and enjoy it. But also think you can really, I love chocolate, but I especially love chocolate after I know I've had a really intense workout or I've done something, or I've been eating really healthy for 4 days straight. I haven't had any, and then I'll have that bit of chocolate. I'm like, yeah, I deserve this.
Totally.
I'm really going to enjoy
especially
it.
if it's the good stuff, the 70% cacao.
The raw chocolate.
Yeah,
It's so good.
So good.
Once you
love
start eating that stuff, your normal Cadbury's block from the shops just doesn't cut it anymore.
Doesn't do it.
Once you've had proper chocolate, it's sensational.
Yeah.
All right, well, I think we might end there, Eesha.
Always good to end on a sweet note.
Oh, should have got the drum out. Don't eat sugar. Love yourself as well. Exercise, eat healthy, meditate, do yoga. What else? Don't follow what anyone says.
Ignore all that. Just do whatever you like and have fun living life, all right? We're not telling anyone to do yoga.
That's right.
Remember
We told
this whole
people not to
kitchen
do.
conversation.
That's right. I forgot. Yeah, just do what you want,
Just
everyone.
do what you want, guys.
Just don't be an
And don't feel
arsehole.
bad about it.
Yeah, and just don't hurt anyone else.
touche.
That's all you got to do.
Touche.
Don't worry. Don't listen to me.
I think we should stop now.
Yeah, we'll stop there. Eesha, thank you very much. I'm leaving in 5 weeks' time, but please let's make sure we do another podcast before we leave.
Yeah.
And
Number 70. You got to get number 9.
Oh shit! That means I
You
need
do
to
2 a
find.
week. And
Yeah. Okay.
No, it'll happen.
All right, we'll get done.
We'll do it.
Oh, also, people, can I just? There's probably not no one listening now, but that's all right. If you are listening and you're a YouTube subscriber, I've really got this thing. I'd like to get to 100 subscribers before I leave. I'm up to 93, so I like another 7 subscribers to the YouTube channel.
I'll do it.
Oh, please do.
94 now.
Cool. So I only need another 6 people. If you're watching this in YouTube, please subscribe. There should be a little button down here somewhere. Down there. Please press it. I'll put some links up for your stuff as well, Eesha. That'd be fantastic to have up there. Anyone, check out if you're interested in some of the stuff that Eesha's doing. Please have a look into it. It's fantastic.
And check out the last one, because the last one has some crazy intense.
Yeah, the last podcast was very different to this podcast, and it was just as valuable, just as awesome. So yeah, that's what's great about doing these podcasts. Anything can and will happen. So. Whew. All right.
Thank you.
Thanks, Eesha. Thanks to everyone else, and we'll see you next time. Bye.